Hey guys, here we are going into round 4, Ward versus Kovalev, in preparation for the rematch. So rounds 1 and 2 were predicated on lead hand dominance for the most part, and they were very good rounds for Sergey Kovalev. Whereas in the last round, Kovalev didn't use as much lead hand dominance. He didn't control Ward. He wasn't probing as much, like still feinting, right? But he wasn't able to get Ward to engage him as much. And Ward used a lot of lateral movement to kind of dictate the pace of the round and the tempo of the round, and it was a lot better of a round for him. You know, he may have won it, he may not. It was much better and much closer than rounds 1 and 2 regardless. So I'm kind of getting the sense that he's going to want to focus on those kinds of things rather than engaging with Sergey Kovalev and allowing those kinds of skills and Sergey Kovalev's knowledge of the lead hand rather than battling him in that, using lateral movement to kind of frustrate him, you know. But also, Kovalev might also have just been looking for that one right hand, so he might have just been a little more tentative, you know, looking for that one shot, you know. But I'll give it to Ward for the movement. I give him credit, I mean. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into round 4 and see what we can get. So the round starts. And now look at Kovalev, right? Not just feinting, right? But probing with the jab, giving him some feints, using his lead hand much more so far at the start of the round than he arguably did all round. And really clever of Ward, right? Kovalev kind of hops in, and Ward times him right there and catches him with the jab. Kovalev smartly catches him on the inside with the left hook. I think that's predicated off of the space he creates, because I think this is the first time where after Ward comes in, when he controls his head, he winds up pivoting himself and giving him a little space to punch rather than strictly just tying Ward up. But let's kind of break down some of this inside fighting and talk about it. So Ward does the same thing, gets under the jab, right? And then gets his left hand around Kovalev's body, holding, right? So he's the one initiating the holding right here, holding his body still, throwing punches with his right hand. Kovalev ties him up. Now Kovalev has to eat a shot while he's trying to hold. And it's like an interesting ebb and flow, right? While one is holding, the other one's punching. While the other one's holding, the other one's punching. But I think that might also change here too, right? So after landing a shot with his left arm, he ties Kovalev up and tries to land with his left arm, and then tries to land a punch with his right arm. And that's one of those things that Ward does now. So now he's tying up the other arm and then punching with his other arm. So he'll tie up with his left, punch with his right, then tie up with his right and punch with his left, and alternate the holding, so he can kind of hold and hit you and not really, and make you think that he's going to be tying you up, because you start focusing on the free hand, the one that just hit you. Then while you're trying to tie that one up, he lets go of the tie up that he had with the other arm and lands offense with that, right? Kind of getting you off your game and able to rotate those kinds of that kind of offense to land more shots, you know. The fact is, though, he's still holding with one arm and hitting with the other, and it's, you know, technically it's illegal. You know, actually not even just technically, and in nearly every sense of the rules, it's illegal. And he shouldn't be getting away with it. But it's kind of like one of those like old school dirty boxing tactics. And he kind of gets away with it. You know, it's just one of those weird things. It's not always super apparent who's doing the holding, especially if you're punching. So even though it's not legal, it shouldn't count. You know, you got to realize that you don't have the slow-mo replay, you know, to watch the fight when you're judging. and you kind of got to make a decision. So he's gonna get credit for some of those shots, a good percentage of the time. Anyway, comes in. Ward throws a weird right hand. I don't know what the hell that is, but he eats a left hook for it. One thing that's been bothering me, Ward has thrown 2 right hands, I think, during the whole fight. Only 2 right hands. Aside from like when they're tied up and he's holding. Does anybody have any idea about whether there's something maybe wrong with Ward's right arm? If you look at it, like when he's let's not go back too far. Like look at the position that his right arm's in. It's literally in that position the whole fight. He almost never moves it. It's like it's in a sling. It's so weird. Does anybody know anything about that? Like does he have like a gimp arm? Like that I just haven't known about like his whole career? Look, it doesn't move in this whole exchange. Punch, jab, jab, right? Still in the same exact position. Is there something wrong with it? Like same thing when he's hitting the bag and stuff, And I don't want to talk about it too much. Also, like I know people get tired of me talking shit about people's guard, right? That's one of the problems with Andre Ward's guard. Might also be the reason why he doesn't have any power, because he's so tight, right? And he's not super fluid in his movements, so he's not able to engage all the muscles in his core because he's so tight and it looks like he's so wound up. But that's like a whole nother topic. But anyway, let's get back to boxing, not conjecture and not whatever. So here you go. Andre Ward giving him a probe, and look at these probes. Look at how much better these probes are, these lead hands. Look how much better they are than the ones he was using in the early rounds when he would just stick his glove out, right? So much faster, so much more crisp, and he's still able to get the information from Kovalev, right? And that's exactly what you want to do with these punches, right? You use them, you get your opponent to react to them, right? He slips that shot, the first jab, then he ducks under the next one, and again, the very Virgil Hunter, I think that's his name, the very Virgil Hunter style defense where you get under the jab and then you bring your head into their body and you clasp them with your other hand and you tie them up. And that's why Kovalev's putting him in a headlock right here, because he's the one that's initiating it. But while Kovalev, or while Ward doesn't do anything like significant with this, he's showing that he's learning how to use the probe on the job. You kind of got to give him a little credit for that. And he's refining his tools a little bit from how he was using it in rounds 1 and 2. In spite of the fact that he's still trying to use, some like dirty tactics or whatever. But, uh-oh. So what happens here? Ward's circling, sticking his lead hand out. And he explodes into a left hook, right? He eats a jab, and then a right hand kind of catches him on the shoulder. Nothing big, but this is exactly why you set your punches up, right? So you don't wind up taking a shot. Look how close this second punch is to being like a knockout punch. It would have been on the perfect side of his head, and if he hit him, it could have knocked him out. And that's why you want to set your punches up. That's why you want to use lead hand dominance, right? So in this instance, the reason why it's so effective, right, or it could have been, is because Sergey Kovalev is in perfect position to defend himself, right? There haven't been any feints or probes that Kovalev has had to react to that put him out of position. So all that happens is Ward sells out to try and throw this punch, putting himself out of position while his opponent's still in position, and he eats a counter and then almost eats another counter right there. And that's why lead hand dominance and feinting and probing is so important, because you're hoping to put your opponent out of position before you start letting your offense go. Good body shot from Ward. I think he, I don't even know if he really sets it up either, but when it's interesting because Kovalev dips down to his left and Ward actually times his movement, right? Kind of like how he timed him earlier with that little hop step. I'm kind of wondering at this point if Ward is picking up on Kovalev's subtle movements and figuring out ways to time them to land some offense. Man, and this I hate this shit. Where the camera angle, you can't really see exactly what happens because the camera angle changes right away. But, yeah, he lands a body shot. We're not going to talk too much about that. Now, interesting, man, so what happens right after that body shot? I think, so Ward has landed 2 body shots now, right? And gotten away from the counters, you know, intelligently. He's doing some good things. But now he's not using lateral movement, right? He's resigned to trying to stand in front of Kovalev, and Kovalev gives him a feint, right? Gives him a probe, right? Gives him another feint, right? And gives him a probe. And what does Ward do? He tries to counter it because he doesn't realize it's a probe, misses the counter, and then gets cracked with the right hand. Again, Ward showing that he hasn't fully grasped like the strategy that Kovalev is utilizing against him, and how good Kovalev is with his lead hand in baiting and setting up his punches, right? So feints him again, probe, feint, probe, and that's not a real punch. And he, again, from this position right there, it's basically like Ward is just opening up with the left hook, just like he did before. Remember when he did the leaping left hook? It's nearly the same position because Kovalev's not really putting himself out of position with this probe, right? I mean, it looks like it, but it's because it's not a punch, because he's not committing to it. He's ready to throw a right hand, and he times it perfectly on Ward's head and cracks him with a big shot. And that's why you probe, to make your opponent make a mistake. And Sergey Kovalev showing that he's got a mastery of this. You know, it's a wonder why he didn't do it at all in the third round, right? But also, Ward's using a lot less lateral movement now and being more open to engage with him. And as soon as he starts getting open to engage with him, what does he do? He eats a big shot. Again, more probing, probe. You know, Ward not making the same mistake, right? And throwing punches with him and not allowing him to catch him with a shot. Controlling his head after. You know, little jab battle right there where they both figure out who's going to try to lead for a second. But jabbing, probing, some more probing. And I'm wondering why Ward is entertaining this type of fight with Kovalev, right? He so far hasn't shown that he can win, but he's shown that he can do much better when he uses lateral movement. And now this is good too from Ward. Probe, right? Probe. The same thing that he was doing before, right? But he's not telegraphing it like he was before, where he would dip down really far onto his right leg. But you can see him kind of dipping down, waiting for the jab or baiting the counter, because he's trying to get Kovalev to make a mistake. But you know, Kovalev knows what he's doing too, and he's a little tentative. He's a little tentative as well, not wanting Ward to slide under his jab and body up with him again, and you know. But anyway. Very similar to before, where you get on the ropes, right? And you can't figure out where to go. But it's interesting. I wonder why Kovalev didn't make him pay when he got him on the ropes right there. Why didn't catch him with a shot like he had before? Oh, man. Again, why you set your punches up, why you want your opponent to be the first one to act. Even though, like, when you're probing and you're jabbing and you're feinting, it looks like you're the first one to act, but you're really making your opponent make a mistake. You know, it's kind of like being a lead counter puncher. You know, if you want to describe it like that. Like, you're leading, but you're really countering because you're just waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. And in this situation, Kovalev kind of, you know, does this count as a feint? Right? He dips down to his side, and Ward comes in for some reason. I don't know why. And he just makes a mistake all on his own. You know, Kovalev didn't even have to set that up. And he catches him with a great uppercut. You know, it's interesting too because he takes that little step back and catches him with an uppercut. It's interesting why this is the first time he's done something like that. Oh, did he land that shot? probing shot. I can't really tell. I know that same guy who was talking shit to me. Hey, bro, in the comments, can you tell me if that punch lands? I can't tell. It kind of, sort of lands. I'm not sure. But gets Ward to kind of, I don't know if he makes a mistake exactly, but when he tries to sell out to kind of move in, Kovalev's figuring out that he can kind of catch him in between. But again, feinting and probing. You wonder why Ward is engaging with him. You know, gets him on the ropes again while Ward is showing him the lead hand. You know, gets a free shot right there because Ward's out of position. And Ward doesn't want to eat a left hook. He'd rather eat a jab, I guess. Explodes with his left hand. Throws his right hand, and look at this. Look at how far in he comes with his head. You know, how did Kovalev even see that coming? You know, if he would have stayed in regular position, he might have just gotten like a crazy headbutt. You know, but because he doesn't set those punches up either, you know, Ward doesn't land them. Who initiates the holding here? So, Ward's holding with the left hand, punching with the right, holding with the left. You know, so far a much better round for Kovalev. You know, again, probing and feinting, and Ward is not resetting. Remember when we were talking about that in the last round? Ward's sitting there, you know, not reacting to the feints, and winds up catching a couple of shots. Good defense right there. That's a pretty good body shot from Ward. Kovalev comes in. Let's see, how does Kovalev come in? Probing jab. Ward sticks his glove out. Oh, does that catch him on the chin? I thought that missed before for sure. Nah, I don't think so. Rolls under. And then after having his head controlled, looks like he lands a body shot. I'm not super sure. The video quality is so much worse on my computer than it is on YouTube for some reason. But a really interesting round, right, guys? So much, Ward being so much more willing to engage with him in this round, and it allowed Kovalev to land some more big shots, you know, and I'm not sure exactly what it is that Ward thinks he sees or that he's going to be able to time or figure out, but that round really didn't go well for him when he allows Kovalev to control him with the lead hand, and control him with the probes and put him out of position. Also, just putting himself out of position by leaping in with punches is not going to go well for him in the future either. Yeah, a much better round for Kovalev yet again. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments, if I missed anything or whatever. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.